Good morning. Welcome to Unity of Springfield. Adult education and world religions. And we are glad to have you on live stream as well as here in person. And my name is John Braucher. Today we're going to be talking about being peace. So this started. I was going to do this back in early May. Then I let somebody know I was taking some time off, but it wasn't the weekend that I was going to be doing this. But anyways, it got miscommunicated, and so I've had an additional 6 weeks to kind of stew on this, and it's become more than what it was before. So I'll probably end up having to do it on my next class. So it started with this book called Being Peace by Thich Nhat Hanh. And Thich Nhat Hanh was a peace activist, Vietnamese, grew up during the Vietnam War.
Oh, good idea.
And now you can hear me. He grew up during the Vietnam War and struggled quite a bit because he was really, he knew so many people who died in the war. And he joined a Buddhist monastery. And what happened was he started this peace activism group, and both the Americans and South Vietnamese, as well as the North Vietnamese and Chinese, all believed that he was against them. So they were all after him. And so he eventually fled to France and found some refuge there and set up a peace network and set up his own little organization there. And did a lot of writing, and his main ministry within Buddhism was about peace. And so I've always been drawn to him. So today we're going to start with a daily word from April 24th, 2026. And as I pray, I envision a world of peace. When I feel discouraged or anxious about the state of the world, I pause to remember God is present, even in the midst of conflict. Settling into a few moments of meditation, I center myself in divine peace. I relax into the awareness that the peace I seek begins with me. I open my heart in prayer and listen for divine guidance. How can I be a presence of peace, a soothing balm, or a helping hand to someone in need? While I stay informed about world affairs, I am not consumed by it. Instead, I remain grounded in the present, rooted in faith, and anchored in the belief that peace is possible, or already here. I envision a world where everyone's needs are met and love guides every action. And I sit in gratitude that it is. I added that.
John,
Yes.
on the way here, the last song I heard on the radio coming in to church was "You might as well face it, you're addicted to love." And I said, "Damn, I am."
So Thich Nhat Hanh wrote this poem. Please call me by my true name. And is everybody familiar with interbeing, the concept of interbeing?
I'm not.
Okay, so interbeing is a term coined by Thich Nhat Hanh, which is about the interconnectedness of everything. So if you look at this piece of paper, it couldn't exist without rain, without a tree, without loggers, without saws, without, and it just, I mean, you keep going, and it's until, it's like the 6 degrees of separation. There's, everything's connected. And that's the concept of interbeing. And I just want to give that because that's kind of the part of what's in this poem. Don't say that I will depart tomorrow. Even today, I am still arriving. Look deeply. Every second I am arriving to be a bud on a spring branch, to be a tiny bird with still fragile wings, learning to sing in my new nest, to be a caterpillar in the heart of a flower, to be a jewel hiding itself in a stone. I arrive in order to laugh and cry, to fear and to hope. The rhythm of my heart is the birth and death of all that is alive. I am a mayfly, metamorphosizing on the surface of the river. And I am a bird that swoops down to swallow the mayfly. I am a frog swimming happily in the clear water in the pond. And I am a grass snake that silently feeds itself on the frog. I am a child in Uganda, all skin and bones, my legs as thin as bamboo sticks. And I am the arms merchant selling deadly weapons to Uganda. I'm a 12-year-old girl, refugee on a small boat, who throws herself into the ocean after being raped by a sea pirate. I am also the pirate, my heart not yet capable of seeing and loving. I am a member of the Politburo with plenty of power in my hands, and I am the man who has to pay his debt in blood to my people dying slowly in a forced labor camp. My joy is like spring, and so warm it makes flowers bloom all over the earth. My pain is like tears, so vast that it fills 4 oceans. Please call me by my true name, so that I can wake up and the door of my heart could be left open, the door of compassion. There's just a lot of things, going on in the news. Iran, Truce Boulevard, Kansas City, Palestine, Lebanon, Native American reservations, Ukraine, Western Russia, Central Africa, and just the current day political discussions that go on seemingly on totally different frequencies. And it seems as if the world's increasingly violent, uncaring, self-destructive, and just downright hateful sometimes. At least from the information that seems to be flowing in the information highway that we're kind of hooked on. So how did we get there? How did we get here? This situation that we're in? It just happened? Has it always been this way? What were the good old days? Were they peaceful? why does it stay this way? Good, okay. And because we keep focusing on it, if we're thinking metaphysically, and is there anything we can do to change the world? Is there anything we can change our own reality? And does that make a difference? You know, for most of the sages say that about the way to bring peace is to be peace inside. And if we're at peace, that has a ripple effect that goes off. And I've been thinking deeply about that, and we'll get to that. And then how can we create peace around us? How does compassion come into that? So while I was just focusing on this, I ran into a story about something that happened in 2013. And it's really strange because I had never heard of this, but an event that actually took place. Everyone else was running away. Antoinette Tubb stayed. August 20th, 2013. A gunman walked into Ronald E. McNair Discovery Learning Center Academy carrying an AK-47 and hundreds of rounds of ammunition. Panic spread instantly. Teachers moved students to hallways, to safety, hallways empty, people ran. Antoinette Tubb did not. She wasn't a police officer. She wasn't a soldier. She wasn't trained for hostage situations. She was a school bookkeeper. And she was suddenly standing face to face with an armed man who said he was ready to die. For the next 35 minutes, Antoinette did something remarkable. She talked, not about tactics, not about negotiations, about life, about pain, about struggle. She told him about her own failed marriage, her financial problems, her darkest moments. She spoke to him as a human being instead of as a threat. The gunman listened. As the conversation continued, something changed. The anger softened. The tension eased. The man who entered the school prepared for violence began listening to a stranger who understood suffering. Then Antoinette said words that would later be heard around the world. We're not going to hate you. The gunman lowered his gun and surrendered. That day, approximately 800 children returned home to their families. No shots were fired. No lives were lost. No dramatic takedown occurred, which is why I probably didn't get on the news as much. Just one woman choosing compassion when fear would have been easier. And I titled this A Heroic Role Model. I have some copies of that if anybody's interested. So that's a way that someone could make peace. Any other ways people might have ideas of how you can make peace?
I can't help but think about most of the, sorry.
Yeah.
about the Walk for Peace. We just went. Hello.
Okay, now
But anyways, the Walk for Peace.
mm-hmm.
Of course, after it was over, they did it overseas too.
What date was that?
Was it April? I think it was April. Yeah. And it was just really incredible. And what I loved about it is the many walls that began to break down for people dogma, threatening, and things like that. Churches began to open their doors, things like that. And it was just really incredible. He for a long time, it was, how many days was it?
It was several days.
It was a lot of days.
Yeah.
And if you don't know about it, they walked. The bunch of monks walked from Texas to Washington, D.C. and walked. And the whole time they were stopping and ministering to the people. But what's incredible about that is literally for many, many nights, he spoke at the crowds when they would stop. And there's probably, I don't know, 60 or 70 messages on YouTube from his messages that he did every night. And it's just been transforming. So, at least for me.
Right, and he did it mostly through the South. They went a lot through the South.
Yep. And the crowds just became become and by the thousands at one point, and of course, the Loco was the hit of the show because he had his dog with him. That was really cool. But anyways, I just want to throw that out. It was really one way.
Yeah.
Carla went and walked with them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think they picked the dog up on the way, didn't they?
No, the dog came from the other country, and then from the monastery into the other country.
Oh, okay.
And then came over.
Yeah. I think we're all trying for peace in our own way.
Mm-hmm.
And there are many people that think that peace is going to be solved by violence or destruction. But there are many more that feel like peace is going to be attained through, taking a higher road. But I think all people want the same thing. I think sometimes they're fighting inside themselves to maybe determine what that route is.
Good point. And I'll follow up on
I can remember the first time I ever felt peace. I had left Seymour, the Avatar Retreat Center, and I was driving to Tulsa, and I knew that my daughter was going to have some serious objections to where I'd been. Born-again Christians seem to think that Avatar is a tool of the devil. And that was actually why I went to the Avatar course, was to see how to get my son out of that cult that he was in.
Which was my fault.
Yeah, I was. And so I'm driving from Springfield to Tulsa to see my daughter. And I was listening to some of Bettina Clemens' flute music, which was just music. And as I was driving, it was like, there was no chatter in my head at all. And I was like, this is peace. This is peace. This is what peace feels like. It didn't come from where I expected it to come from. It didn't look like what I expected it to look like. But it was the silence in my head of just being. And that was the first time I'd ever felt peace. And it was amazing. And I don't think that the majority of people have any idea how profound peace is and how accepting. That was kind of the main thing, is peace is, it's accepting the beingness of who we are. And it just was so incredible. It was so amazing.
Tim.
I had the grace of an experience that
never completely leaves you when you have states of what Elby just shared, and when you sink into the part of you that watches the other part of you that's constantly commenting and chattering and judging and fearing and living your life from your past experiences, and you don't even realize it. It's this program, and such grace to find yourself. It always feels like you kind of maybe did something with your will to direct yourself there, but really when it happens, you realize it's what you always were. It's what you really are underneath all of it. It's just, you can't really do it. It's the not doing kind of. But what I was really going to say was, in answer to your question, what can we do? What are we doing to contribute to peace on the planet? As a person who has been bludgeoned my whole life for talking too much, I have found that my biggest gift for situations that bring the most peace is silent listening. And you can say just enough for the person, like this woman probably, that creates a sense of safety and comfort that you're hearing the person, but was engaged in a thing that became nationwide co-counseling, and it was just teaching you a few skills. We have these automatic ways that we think we're helping somebody when they have a problem in their life or their relationships. We go to family and friends more than paid professionals, but the family and friends, if you learn how to listen, so we have automatic things we do to try to help or minimize or distract or, tell you my story. And anyway, so you learn to just be present and listen and care and not feel like you have to. We have a huge, intelligent, high being in ourselves that finds our own way in the loving presence of it is beneficial in the loving presence of another person. Of course, you can meditate and go through all that stuff. But anyway, so silence, I find, is often the biggest thing I can give to situations and to people. Conscious silence.
Good job. Okay, good. Okay, so, and another way is at 6 o'clock this evening, there'll be a meditation group. A group of people are meditating as a group of folks here. And that's a form of a way of creating.
We start with
peace.
reading of Thich Nhat Hanh. When we do the meditation, we
Okay.
start with reading of Thich Nhat Hanh.
Okay. Perfect. Doesn't surprise me. So the word peace, shalom in Hebrew, salam in Arabic, shama in Aramaic, aloha in Hawaiian, is like a peace be with you kind of greeting. Namaste is I bow to the divine in you. Every day, wishing you peace, wishing you a peaceful day, warmest and most peaceful regards, are just kind of normal everyday ways that we can share peace. We have some role models, Thich Nhat Hanh for one, Martin Luther King, Gandhi, Jesus of Nazareth, St. Francis of Assisi. During the, we know of him from the prayer of St. Francis, which is a wonderful prayer. But one of the things that he did was during the Crusades, he was alive while the Crusades were going on. The Catholic Church was warring with Muslim countries, Islamic countries in North Africa. And St. Francis was trying to broker a peace deal during the Crusade. And of course, he was doing it against the Pope. He was not following orders very well. And it got subterfuge, but at least, there's a written record of his going towards and presenting a written framework for peace. Desmond Tutu and Nelson Mandela in South Africa, one of the cool things about that peace effort was the whole thing about truth and reconciliation. So they were trying to get through some shared understanding, that not just shoving under the rug what had happened, but to share with doing it, but without putting people in jail and putting them up against the firing range. They were getting a chance to get it out about how it felt and how it affected them, and it led to a revolution that was much less violent than what it could have been. You know, I see peacemakers when I look out at you. You're my role. That's one of the reasons why, why I'm drawn.
Most of the time.
That's true for all of us.
Sure.
We feel the same about you, John.
It's another example. A boy with Down syndrome suddenly stopped. This was at a special. Beginning of that story. This occurred in 1990, Special Olympic camp. One morning, they found themselves competing together on the same track in the same event. At the sound of the starting gun, they were off towards the finish line at the other end of the course. It was a young boy with Down syndrome that made this account so powerful, as the other competitors bounded down the track using whatever skills they had to work towards the finish. This special boy slowed down and looked back towards the starting line. He saw that one of his competitors or teammates had fallen at the beginning of the race and was struggling to stand up. The boy with Down syndrome suddenly stopped, turned, and started walking back towards his friend. One by one, each of the other competitors realized what was happening, turned and followed, until they had retraced their steps to the point to where they had begun. Lifting their friend to his feet, they locked arms and walked together down the track to the finish line. In that moment, those 9 children redefined the rules of competition. With the clock still ticking away, they moved beyond the limits of time and sport to create an experience where they each finished in their own way, all at the same time. It made no sense for one of them to arrive at the finish line without the others. It elicits hope. There's something about this story, and also it can be changed by applying a new rule to an existing condition. So that's the kind of the kernel, the nugget that I'd like us to have, that if we look at conflict that's not working out and think of what rule of behavior needs to change in order for this to be transformed to a peaceful event. So sometimes it means we need to think out of the box and get the handout. So you all have this handout, the thoughts and practices on peace. Would someone like to read The Within Me by Albert Camus? Albert Camus. I was surprised how he was 20th century. 1913 to 1960.
Oh,
I'm glad you're helping me with my job here. I'm a job and I'm not even doing it.
Within Me by Albert Camus. In the midst of hate, I found there was within me an invincible love. In the midst of tears, I found there was within me an invincible smile. In the midst of chaos, I found there was within me an incredible calm. I realized through it all that in the midst of winter, I found that there was within me an invincible summer. And that makes me happy, for it says that no matter how hard the world pushes against me, within me, there's something stronger, something better, pushing right back.
Thank you. And isn't that just true? But that's also the way it is with anything. So if somebody is also, is coercively trying to get you to do something, we have that natural sense to push back. And which is, sometimes one of the sources of conflict. And so pushing people to be peaceful maybe, doesn't work. And one of the things I was also started reading The Isaiah Effect by Greg Braden. And he wrote this right around the turn of the century, right around 2000. And one of the things that he was getting into was some of the studies that he reports of people doing meditation, group meditation, to try to impact violence and world conflicts, and by doing mass prayer and mass meditation. There's there are several. There's the Maharishi effect that was found in 1972 studies, where there was just meditation. And in 1983, there were several studies and it was found that as little as 1% of a mass population practicing a unified prayer or meditation could impact social behavior, or behavior of a social group, social unit. And that's kind of a passive peace act, but really it's very active at the same time. And I think that's something, there's other things that have occurred. There's the Unify was in 2023 on September 21st at 2 p.m. Central Time, had millions of people doing a piece of like a meditation, peace meditation. This December 21st will be World Meditation Day. And I just keep thinking if more people got into this, if this was something that maybe that's something that Unity wants to be a part of, is to making sure that we all know about the opportunities.
When is it?
December 21st, is World Meditation Day. And I don't know the Unify site. I couldn't keep it on my phone. It kept going away like it was being blocked or something. I don't know. And I've also thought about that. I thought a lot about AI and the centralizing of control of information. and how that impacts us because we all have these computers with us that we're carrying. And more, the information that we have access to, there's centralized control. Corporations are becoming fewer in number and larger in scope. You know, the healthcare corporations now. There's several examples of where the insurance company, the medical providers, the hospitals, and the clinics are all the same organization. And the pharmacy are all the same organization. It's called vertical integration. And so there's a lot of things, and that's happening also in mass media, newspapers, television, things that can be viewed on phones and television screens and stuff. And so I had, these thoughts go through my mind, and then I was thinking about the Celestine prophecy and those books. And, the way around that, and also I was thinking about the telepathy. Is everybody familiar with the telepathy tapes?
No.
So that's something I found on Spotify. I highly encourage you to listen to them. And that there's, at some point, and this gets to the point of that if there's like 1% people really focused on a meditation, that there's a tipping point where then things happen, like the Arab Spring, where there was a focus where democracy was an idea that was gaining ground in the Middle East, and Egypt and several Arab countries, they were starting to demand free speech. And, and they had these things that were making it hard for the governments that were used to not allowing free speech to control it. And so there was a tipping point there. There's perestroika and glasnost in the USSR led to them having a freer speech and a freer country, at least for a while. Solidarność in the Polish freedom from the Eastern Bloc nations was something that just kind of built until there was, and I remember feeling like I was in solidarity with them, and I was here in the United States, in Missouri. And what impact did that have in the whole changeover? Because I was hoping that they were going to experience freedom without violence, and it came to pass. So, and if we can get this started before everybody's so dependent only on this, where we can get in unison and we can get a vibration going, we can get a communication going, we can get a knowing going that's based on peace, and of course we start where we are, start with ourselves, and then those that we're in contact with. If we continue to do that and push that and educate people that, hey, this is an option. We don't have to. And then another part, what Paul was saying about how most people want peace. we're more like each other than we're not. Even a chimpanzee has 99% of the same DNA that we do. All humans have more than 99% of the same DNA material. We're brothers and sisters in this world that we're going into. We're not so different. Yes, we have different ways of expressing ourselves, but we're much more alike each other than not. So we ought to be able to communicate on some level that we're still learning to understand. So how does that come into manifestation? How do we manifest?
So I just got back from Guatemala, where I spent 20 days with my brother, who joined a peace organization 25 years ago. It's called Servas, and it was started after World War II by people who wanted to figure out how to create peace in the world. And they decided that if people got to know each other in different nationalities, that they would be less likely to go to war with each other. And so it's a travel organization, and when you're a member, if you're a host, you agree to keep someone in your home 2 nights and 3 days and teach them about the culture of the area where you are. And when my brother went to Europe, he stayed in Servas homes 14 days out of the 24 that he was in Europe. And he was talking with a German lady, and she didn't understand. Americans they were so rude, and all they did was come to see the Eiffel Tower and this and this and this and this. And when he explained to her that Americans work for years to be able to have a vacation, they only have a week off or maybe 2 at the very most after years of working, and they've heard about all these things, they don't have time in their schedule to make friends with the people. In Europe, you have a month off. Everybody has a month off every year. So when they go on vacation, they have time to relate to people. And when this lady looked at what my brother said, she totally looked at Americans totally different. It builds compassion when you understand why people do things. And he plays Santa Claus in Guatemala for all the little villages for the American Legion. And he had 120 people show up for a birthday party. Probably 80% of them only spoke Spanish. And he has to use a translator because his Spanish teacher fired him because he couldn't learn Spanish. But to see the example, and everywhere he went, people knew him and loved him, and he cared about people. The cripple on the street that is trying to sell trinkets to put his daughter through college. And my brother always gives him money because he doesn't need any more trinkets. And he made sure that he got home that night when he didn't have money to get home so that he could make it to the party the next day. And he makes sure that the guy that is selling chocolate, and he doesn't like chocolate, he makes sure that he sells chocolate and then he gives it to everybody around his route. And he just spreads that. And it was the most amazing 2.5 weeks of my life, watching his 3 sons that came from Alaska, Thailand, and Colorado interact with each other and with him. And it's wanting to share understanding with people and sharing that peace. And he is just an amazing soul. And that's part of, when you know something about people, you're much more compassionate.
I think that's obvious. Go ahead.
Thanks, Albina. I want to talk to you about that. I was just thinking, so often I think we do make what I would consider progress in going towards peace. And I think that can happen on a worldwide basis. But so often there are forces, there are groups that feel threatened by these movements. And they're very good sometimes at being able to shut it down pretty strongly. You know, I'm just going to throw this off the top of my head, but, you know, I think of USSR Russia. When we did have that movement, you know, a couple, 3 decades ago, where there was democracy, where there was more going away from communism, and all of a sudden, you know, there are the elements that shut that down pretty quickly. You look at Jesus, you know, Jesus was there to, I think we all believe that Jesus was there to bring peace. Jesus was there to change things for the betterment of the world. He was shut down. So, and anyway, my point is, I don't want to be Debbie Downer here, but I think we have to think, okay, how is this going to affect others, and how can we get through that? Because so often we take 2 steps forward and we 1 step back. Do we? I don't know. I mean, I'm talking about in a societal way. In a personal way, no. I think we can move forward as long as we're not threatening others in our life. Anyway.
I have enjoyed the news part about the World Cup. It looks like cities are welcoming these people from all these different countries, and they're drinking together and doing all kinds of things, but they're accepting each other. I haven't heard anything about conflict in any of those instances, and it warms my heart. It feels good.
I personally think that it's a issue of us trying to separate the one thing. There is only one thing. Anytime that you negatively look at something, if I say that this here is wrong, I'm calling the one thing wrong. I can't judge. That's why Christ said to judge. I can't look at one thing and go, well, this is bad, because it's not bad. It's what they are, who they are. And they have just as much right as I do to my beliefs and how I see life. And so the problem we have, or at least I've noticed in my lifetime, is that when I start judging any group, anywhere, at any time, I then judge the one thing that is the one thing, because there's nothing else. There's nothing else to be made of anything to be made from. And so I just lovingly got to try to accept whoever they are and know that they're on their path. And the one thing, we'll never forget them or ever lose them. And the best thing I can do is just back away.
You know, I would like to agree with that, but I have a hard time agreeing with it. I mean, how can you say that, you know, I'm going to accept and know that loving on his own path when Stalin murdered 200 million people? I can't do that.
Well, you know, he also,
I can't take away the terror that goes on in this world and say, oh, this is just what is. This is all one. This is what, obviously, this is what God has ordained. I don't believe it. And I think we do have to stand up to the one who is hurting many. That's my belief.
turns reading these things on?
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm gonna start with, it's this one that starts, the top of it says thoughts and practices on peace, so I'll just pass it if anybody wants to, they can read the next one.
Everyone.
Okay, love is the only force capable of transforming an enemy into a friend. Love is the only force.
Yep.
I go just pass it on.
I gotta get my glasses on, I didn't know you were gonna do that.
I thought, we don't run out of time with that, these are fantastic, John.
Yeah. All right. Studies now.
Studies show that when you focus on the good in your life, your life,
It's in.
okay, good in your life, your brain literally rewires itself to look for even more good. This is the magic of neuroplasticity.
Enlightenment.
Enlightenment is when a wave realizes it is an ocean. All right.
Suffering is ever present. Joy is ever present. They are here together and always will be. So how will you live in this reality, Joe Primo?
Larry?
I think that God is on earth inside every living being. What we call the divine is none other than the energy of awakening, of peace, of understanding, and of love, which is to be found not only in every human being, but in every species on earth.
Crying is a kind of communication, and communication is awesome.
Love that.
Love liberates, it doesn't just hold. That's ego. Love liberates. Maya Angelou.
Perhaps the most radical act of resistance in the face of adversity is to live joyfully. Ari Hanover.
Oh, I'm sorry.
When I point to the obviously wonderful aspects of my life as the source of my joy, it predisposes me to believing the challenges in my life are what rob me of my joy. As soon as I began exploring ways I could be grateful for the hard stuff, I no longer felt like the outer world was the sole dictator of what was happening to my inner world. Andrea Gibson. Through our daily contemplation and daily down-to-earth action, we may become agents of healing and wellness. May we. May we become agents of healing and wellness. That's different, isn't it?
So this next section then is, there's one little group of writings from Julian of Norwich, which is a woman who lived from 1342 to 1423 and was a mystic in the Catholic Church during that period of time. And like all mystics, Richard Rohr writes, she realized that what Jesus was saying about himself, he was simultaneously saying about all of reality. Our sister and ancestor Julian is eager not only to speak to us today, but to shout at us, albeit in a gentle way, to wake up and go deep, to face the darkness and to dig down and find goodness, joy, and awe, by Matthew Fox. And then the willingness to consider possibility requires a tolerance of uncertainty, which is a little bit uncomfortable sometimes. And then I wanted to bring in the 5 principles: God is, I am, I think, I pray, and I act. As that's a part of what we can do. And we need to remember that, like when we sing, our thoughts are prayers, and each week, and as we really look at what it is that we're focusing on in quantum physics, that what we focus on, we're creating. And also from Abraham Hicks and others. And then yoga offers the yamas and the niyamas, which are ways of focusing towards peace, non-harming, benevolent, truthfulness, responsibility, non-stealing, unity, simplicity, generosity, are examples of what's come from the yamas without using their language. And I would like us to keep this in our minds, this whole thing towards peace. I also, I understand what Jerry was saying, because that is an existential truth, what he's expressing. And then in our three-dimensional reality, we deal with contrast and conflict. But the question is now, how do we respond to that? Are we, as Thich Nhat Hanh suggests, able to find compassion towards Stalin? And how did that all occur? I mean, yes, he murdered millions of people. And then he also defeated Hitler. Yeah, I mean, with help, it would not totally, but that might not have gone the way we wanted it to had he not been there. So and the Russian people. And that's the other thing is, there's people that have the power and the microphone, but that's not necessarily the people. That's not necessarily us. And that's another thing we can, through prayer and meditation, we can maybe transcend that. And I think that we at least ought to try. So, okay, that's it. Announcements are as follows. Everyone is invited this evening and every Sunday evening for 6 p.m. for meditation. Oh, and not only this 6 p.m. and this is something I forgot, and I just relatively recently got on board. I have an alarm on my phone set for 8 p.m. Why?
For prayer?
Yes. What prayer for what?
I thought it was 9. It's 9.
Is it 9?
But that's okay, that helps too.
Okay.
He ushers us in.
Well,
It's 9 in New York.
it's 9 in New York. Okay.
You usher us in, it's all good.
Well, okay, so 9 p.m. So I'll switch it to 9 p.m. So what's the purpose of that?
For peace,
For unity.
For unity? For
cohesion, wellness.
yes. And here's my thought too. We may want to sometimes be more specific in our collective consciousness choice of attention and focus that we have. Okay. Unity Drum Circle meets first Thursday each month. You're invited to join them this Thursday at 6:30 p.m. Bring your own drum or borrow one of ours. Everyone is welcome. Next Sunday, we'll welcome Amy Burnett back to our platform as our guest speaker. Amy has been dedicated member for over 12 years and currently serves as our board president. She rocks.
Yes,
Next Sunday is Friendship Sunday, and we will have a potluck right after the service. Bring a friend and a dish to share and plan to stay after the service for food and fellowship. And that means we won't have a New Thought adult class on that day because we have that. There'll be a bunch of food, people be getting ready for the potluck. Planet Unity is our biggest fundraiser, and April 2027 will be our 10th year for doing this event. Please join us for the Planet Unity brainstorming meeting on Thursday, July 9th at 5:30 p.m. So pay attention to that. That's an update to the date. It recently was changed to July 9th at 5:30. We'll be exploring creative ways to attract more event sponsors. Whether you have business connections, fundraising experiences, or simply great ideas, your input is welcomed and appreciated. The next Prosperity Team meeting is Monday, July 13th at 6 p.m., and everyone is invited. This team will explore creative ideas and practical strategies to strengthen the financial future of our spiritual community. Our goal is to identify opportunities to increase revenue, enhance stewardship, and support the long-term sustainability of Unity of Springfield. If you have a passion for helping our community thrive, your ideas and insights are welcome. And registration is open for our Community Kids Adventure, aka Spirit Explorers, which is the summer youth program. It will be from July 14th to 16th, 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. and all kids aged 5 to 12 are invited. The theme is Flower Power, and the focus will be on the 12 powers. I almost said 12 flowers. This is a wonderful opportunity for kids to make new friends, share experiences, and engage in uplifting activities in a welcoming community setting. Please fill out the registration form at the connection table if your child would like to participate. The last day to register is July 10th. If you have questions, please see Carla Quincy. And it's luau time. You won't want to miss this fundraiser, August 1 from 6 to 9 p.m. Tickets are $25 per person for a delicious meal, 2 drinks, live music, and lots of fun. Sign up at the connection table to get your seat reserved. We are needing volunteers to bring desserts, donate auction items, and help decorate and help clean up. Please sign up if you can help.
When is that?
That is August 1st.
Saturday.
Saturday. Okay, that's it. Thank you.